Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first part of this webinar series. My name is Sri Nair, a product manager here at Webiog. Eric Vanier and I will jointly present this webinar. Please note that Eric is a MySQL consultant, and this joint venture is primarily due to the success Eric has seen with his clients who already use MariaDB. Also, we will be covering all topic of this webinar on a live MariaDB instance. Please feel free to enter your questions in the chat pod as we progress through this webinar, and we will answer the questions in the end based on the order we receive them. So a quick note on MariaDB. It's agentless and cost-effective monitoring tool, been used worldwide by 35,000 customers across the globe. You should not worry about this at this point, but once you would go through the capabilities of the tool while we demonstrate it live, you would come to know why it is the preferred choice by MySQL DBAs, both novice and advanced MySQL users. So a quick walkthrough what we would be covering in this webinar and what will be your key takeaways at the end of 30 to 40 minutes webinar that we have scheduled now. First, Eric would be taking the first part of the webinar where he will show you live how to identify the top 3 queries, the different ways to do so, and how can you go back in time and see the performance of those queries. Then I would be carrying on to show you how you can fetch the deadlock information using MariaDB, which has a lot of effect on performance of your MySQL servers. And most importantly, how can you become proactive with monitoring your MySQL servers rather than being reactive and crossing your fingers. At the same time, I would also show you how to monitor the MySQL log files which are on a remote machine. And to top it all, we would definitely tell you the differences between MariaDB and MySQL Enterprise Monitor, because at some point you would have to make a decision which is the right tool for you. So I will be willing to help you out with that with a good comparison metrics and a substantial pricing comparison. So from here on, I will transfer the controls to Eric, who would drive the first 3 parts of this webinar.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Vanier, like Sri shared with you. Thank you very much, Sri. So what I'm going to do is I will show you a couple of steps, and I will just bring back my screen. Sorry about that. It's there we go. So since 2001, I'm helping Fortune 500 companies to keep their enterprise databases happy, and we are not just mentioning. I just want to mention here, it's not only gigabytes, but it's terabytes of data. So I will be quick on my presentation because this webinar is more for you than just me and presenting myself. The next is I understand why you're struggling with the database, because I saw so many times the same pattern. I will show you how to identify quickly your slow queries, mainly when your application or your clients complain on the web side or on the front of your application. How come my report is slow? How come it takes so much time? How come this and how come that? It's not mainly because of the application. I'm sure that your application is well coded, it's well done. It's probably, and most of the time, it's MySQL. MySQL is a very good database, like the other databases as well. The thing is, we have to identify what is going on through the database, and mainly, the most of the time, it's because a query is not optimized in a good way or an efficient way. I will give you quick tricks to identify the top 3 slow queries, and Sometimes, because the queries are taking so long to be executed through the database, it creates, and probably you faced that in the past or right now, it creates some deadlock. So I will show you how MariaDB can show you the quickly deadlock and what to do starting from there. I recommend strongly MariaDB. Why? Because since several years I'm using personally as a Oracle MySQL DBA or consultant. This tool, several years ago, I was using the other tools on the market, but when I discovered the MariaDB, I said, oh, that's fantastic, amazing tool. It gives me all the metrics, everything that I needed to get a quick overview as well. And I started to recommend it to my customers. And let me tell you that all the Oracle DB or the other sysadmin, even the other people or customers that I recommended for their high traffic web application, they started to enjoy. And when I showed them how to get all the information, the stats, and how to identify what is going on with their database, where they're struggling at, so they started to enjoy the tool. So I will pass through all that with you. And does it sound familiar? All my queries seems to be stuck for 1 or 2 minutes. MySQL is consuming too much CPU and disk. Things were running 1, 2, or 3 months ago. Suddenly the performance slowed down. Lately, I had the customers that is application. It's a video streaming server that is using, combined with MySQL, and we were able to identify the 5,000% of CPUs that MySQL were using. And because of MariaDB, we were able to quickly identify where was the bottleneck. So we applied the solution, and now is using a server on the normal side. I will try to show you how to identify the top slow queries. 3 ways I will pass through that. We have MariaDB, and we have another tool that we can use to identify a slow query when we can identify it, and I will show it to you. Finally, I will go with how to identify the top slow queries again, but from the past 3 hours. So the scenario is you getting an alert and you want to see what is going on. And usually it's not from the past hour. You will go and gather the information, but on the average, it's good to go from the past 3 hours. The MariaDB, based on my experience, gives you better metrics, better information on the past 3 hours. And technically talking, to just take a look on the past hour, it's not enough information. It's always the rule of 3. So I will jump in my other screen. Sorry about that. Here we go. So basically, here it's MariaDB. So I will let Shri to pass through the order options, but for my purpose of query optimization part, I cannot in a couple of minutes to show you all the tricks, but here it's to get the high level, how to get your information and in a quick way, because sometimes when you are getting an alert, it's because something is wrong, and you have to be able to identify the bottleneck very quickly before your database will go down, and you will start to receive calls from the clients and complain. So we want to keep up your database happy, and you will be happy, and your customer will be happy, and your business will be happy at the end of the day as well. So let's go take a look on the real time. The real time will give you, like it mentions, the real time of what is going on, what are the activities that they are going on in the database. The database that I'm using right now, it's a demo. I created it on purpose for our webinar. So I have a couple of selects going on in the back end. And actually, it's always the same thing, but all the information that I can get, it's select, update, insert, and delete, all the DML information. And if I had a couple of issues, I will see some red spot or all the peaks. So here I'm using a lot of values in one way, and I can see all the queries that they are on the top, and I can see the count as well. So here I have 49,000 times that this query was executed so far, and that will give me right away an idea that this one and the other one, and I can order it by, see, the number. So that's fantastic for that. I can go ahead with a couple of options as well. Here we go. And I can see that all the queries that they were slow or what is going on live. So the other option is Query Analyzer. It's fantastic for this. So I have the option to choose my database. In our purpose, it's the demo. And I will not go to the slow query log that we have in the MySQL server because Monyog has its own kind of slow queries that is created by the tool, and I rather prefer to use a sniffer because I can have retention of days, and it gives me more information, more accurate as well, which query is slow at the moment and the past as well. So I will go with sniffer, and the sniffer is, like I just mentioned, it's a kind of slow query locally on the Monyog server created by Monyog. This sniffer doesn't have to have access to the slow query hosted in the MySQL server. So if you have a permission issue or your environment is very secured, you can use the sniffer. So you don't have to configure to have access to the slow query or the general query. Monyog will do this for you, and it's well done at that level. So let's go analyze the situation. In one quick overview, I can identify the top 5, but for the purpose of this webinar, we will go through the top 3, and I'm gonna choose the top 1 as a demo, as a use case to show you how to optimize that query that is very slow. And let's go here. I have already one. It's the same one as the real time. The real time and the query analyzer, they share the same information. The query analyzer, you will find it, this option, through the real time as well. The real time, it's like a general log for the most of people that they know a bit the language of MySQL. The real time costs a little bit of time consuming or performance 1 or 2% from the MySQL database. So we have to be very careful. If we have a high traffic website, for example, and the database is high on the percentage of used CPUs, it's preferable to use it very on the smart side, because real time is to go and see, okay, what is going on now. It's just to take a snapshot or get a snapshot of the current situation. The query analyzer, depending on the retention that you configure setup before, you can go up to 365 days, etc. So very, very, very good for a DBA to get an information, get an overview, high level, quickly. So I will show you here, it's MariaDB. I know that MariaDB, it's always running in the back end. I can come back, take a look if I receive an alert from my email, because you can configure MariaDB to send you an email if a query takes longer than 10 seconds. This is the standard of MySQL. Or you can, decrease the value because you want to be aware of everything, all the queries that are slower than 1 second or 2 seconds. It depends on your need. Usually, if we don't have MariaDB, we have to go through a GUI tool like Workbench. We have to go with a show process list. It's very hard to get the information. And if we go with the show process list, we have to filter with a where clause, etc., etc. It's a little bit harder. It's a little bit more manual writing stuff. And the other side is if I want to explain or see why my query is very slow, I have a couple of steps to do in the MySQL console compared to here in MariaDB. I will just put aside a little bit MariaDB. I will go with a SSH session, and I will show you something. We can see here, and I'm trying to go live a little bit because I want to show you what a DB faces every single day when they have a case that they have to identify a slow query. It's a little bit a big challenge if we don't have a GUI tool like MariaDB. So I have here 49,000, and I will take this one because this one looks permanent and a pattern. It comes back often. So I will go the alter table. It's only one time, so I cannot say this one is slow because it's a one time. I wanted to change the structure of the table. Here is the select count. We already know the basic. It's preferable to use a count with a column number than a star. A star will go and take all the columns. This is a trick for optimization level side. But I want to know this guy, how come he's so slow? So I will just go a little bit further, and because I know this step, I will go here. I will click on MariaDB, and I have here the query. I will take it. I will copy and paste it. I'm trying to save some time manually because I want to show you the difference between the manual level and the GUI. And I will go with the explain, copy it, and I can see here it's a full scan. We have to know a little bit how explain works in MySQL console. And I can tell you that this query has an optimization problem because it's using 11% of the filtering of information. It doesn't use any possible keys. It's not partitioned, and so on. So I can have, it's a simple query. Yes, we don't have joined and so on. And finally, the table, it's salary. So, can I gather the same information quickly from MariaDB? Yes. If we go with the explain, I can have the same thing in one click. But I can have more information here. So, that tells me as a DBA, when I see a type all, that this query will have a full scan and it's not optimized. Automatically, instinctively, we should say, oh, probably an index is missing somewhere. Can I help this query with an index first? If I have 10,000 indexes and I see this kind of pattern, that means MySQL has a problem to identify which index to use. So I have too many indexes, and those indexes are not well managed, or they were just created like this, and it's mixing up more MySQL than using the proper index. So for our webinar, I will use the same, and let's go see the time that it will take to execute that query. It took 3 seconds. 3 seconds, this query was identified as a slow query because in Monjag, I set up all the queries that they are longer than 1 second. Please identify and show it to me. Here's a next good example. It's 3 seconds. Now, let's go see what is the structure of the table. And here, let's go see the structure of the table properly. And we can see that we have a constraint, we have an employee, we have a dated cascade. We have 2 indexes. We have the primary key. It's a combined, this guy is combining 2 columns. It's okay. That will cover 1 pattern on 1 case. The key, it's the employee number. I have an employee number indexes, but the thing is that the first thing that MySQL would use to try to find a proper index, it's the first column on the right side of the where clause, and we have salary. Salary means it doesn't see anywhere an index or anything that it can help him to optimize or use to run or execute the query in an efficient way and very quickly. So I can see that right away that because of Monjag, the explain plan, that we have no indexes, we are missing someone. So I'm gonna just create this index quickly. This is a use case that most of the time the clients or my clients or all the traffic web has a high traffic or the application is slow. This is the kind of pattern that it comes back often. So when we have a good tool to identify quickly, at least we don't have to pass and open the store query, try to filter with a special script, which top 3, etc., etc. So we are saving a lot of time. So the index will take a little while, 32 seconds, because I have 588,000 rows. I have a couple of millions, but here it's just for the purpose. So now, if I go back and execute again my explain plan, surprised, now MySQL can use an index through the where clause and is filtering 100%, means that this query right now is optimized at 100%, not 11, but 100%. It means something else as well. It means that it's filtering through the index, is using the index 100%, not a part of the percent, but 100%, means this one is optimized at the maximum that MySQL can do with it. So the rows are there. It's a KLAN, it's a very light KLAN, and another course, or if you want to further information, can help you later on. And the possible case, it's salary. It's a type of range, yes, because if you notice, it's from where between 6,000 and 60,000 and 70K. So we are now in a good shape with the MySQL and the query. Now, if I go and I execute again that select as is, see, 70 seconds. So it's more than 1,000% of optimization here. So if we do this exercise proactively, or even if we want to solve a problem quickly, here's how we can do. If we go back, it's because I could copy and paste this guy, this query, and the query was identified quickly by MariaDB to do the same exercise again with MySQL or Workbench or any other query tool, SQL tool. I will have to have more steps to identify, optimize, and here is in a couple of minutes I could do the exercise. And you can do this again proactively to avoid your application website to slow down or even crash between quote unquote, etc. To identify the top 3, you have 2 options. You have more options than that. Quickly, it's through the real time for a specific time range. If you want to get specific information, through the real time, you have already included the query analyzer. But if you want to go with a proactive approach, you can go directly with query analyzer, and you can get more than the top 3, and keep your database happy. So the use case that I just showed it to you, it's the same pattern. And if I was going back to my slides, all the struggling side that you are facing, it's always basically a good percent of queries not optimized, or the database design with indexes is not well designed or even thought about around it. So, and to gather this information query, you will have, if you don't have a GUI tool or a monitoring tool like MariaDB, you will have manually to go in the server, MySQL server. You will have to parse the slow query through a script and gather the information, or even to go and say, okay, I have to go through the show process list. It's not because you don't have. I have here threads. This is the slow query that you will have to execute manually in MySQL console, but here's it very live, and you can see all my queries going on. And if you have yellow or different colors, etc., you can be aware of some queries that they will be in trouble for you. That's it for me. And the top queries, the deadlock now. If we want to identify deadlock, I will simulate right now a deadlock because otherwise, if I go like this, sorry about that. Let me just put this one in the back end, the background. I will do with my other one too. So those 2 scripts that I created, they will just create a deadlock, and I want to show you how MariaDB can help you to identify deadlock very quickly. At this point, MariaDB, if it's running, it will send you an email, an alert to tell you, oops, be careful, be aware, I'm seeing a deadlock going on right now. The bad side of a deadlock, depending on the situation, it can just crash your database or MySQL because it will stack all the order, update, insert, etc. Basically, if we go here, in the dashboard, we have a couple of here, and as you can see, I go in my real time. See all the options that I can have here. Slow queries, lock queries. I can have lock queries. I can have different patterns, different options that I can use. After that, if I can go back here, and if I go here, if I had a deadlock, honestly here, I will get an alert, critical, no critical, and I think my scripts are not working well. Sorry about that, but if you had a deadlock, you will get all the information here. And you will see the option for the deadlock here. I don't have any deadlocks for now, but you will see all the queries that they are creating the locks, the deadlocks here. So I will pass, okay, back to Shri now for covering the further part of the webinar.
Thank you, Eric, for that good presentation. So I would quickly go through the later stages of this particular webinar. So first I wanted to take the proactive monitoring part, like how can you set up server or tag specific alerts, and why is proactive monitoring specifically important. So you should be always thinking that, okay, why is it so important? As reactive monitoring brings along a lot of related business impact in a significant number of customer emergency situations. Proactive monitoring is definitely essential to take actions before something goes particularly horribly wrong, because receiving alerts when the damage is already done is not at all preferable, and it's essential to enable alerts that help you sleep peacefully, you know, and not worry about unpredictable series of events that might happen. So the thumb rule is simple. Prevent problems before customers start noticing. For instance, having alerts enabled ensures you that you are always up to date with the current changes to your MySQL environment, and if some variables are crossing the set threshold values, as the use case and the configurations for servers are different, alerts and the thresholds always change accordingly. So it is always essential to configure the alerting based on the individuality of a server or a group of similar servers. That's why it is important to set up alert at individual server level and also at tag levels as well. So how do you set up alerts or tag specific alerts? So it is very simple. Moniog needs a simple JavaScript to for you to just provide an if-else condition to configure alerts for individual server or tags. So moniog.connections.tagname and moniog.connections.connection name are the MOM is what we call like Moniog object model variables to return the server tag and server name respectively. don't worry if it is getting a bit heavy, because I'm going to show it to you right now. So please follow the steps. Go to monitors and select a specific monitor of your choice. For example, I would just take a percentage of refused connections, and I would go to edit the monitor and set up alerts for this. You would see some critical threshold and warning threshold for this particular monitor set up by default already. But if it is not customized, it would go in for the entire set of servers. But what we want to do is do it at server level or a tag level. So you can just use a simple JavaScript like this to see or to tell the tool that, okay, you want to have this particular alert for this particular set of servers. For example, if you see, I put some comments here like threshold based on server names. So if you would give the server name here, you will be all fine, and you will just give the value here. Like if you think that, okay, percentage of refused connections at 80 should be critical for you, you should put that value here. Or if you want to give it to a different server, you return the value 50, for example, you can just put a value of your choice according to what your percentage of refused connection should look like. And the second part, which you see here, is the threshold based on tag names, which is very, very important, because you do not want to have a general setting across your servers. You want to give specific alerts for specific servers. For example, 100 servers, like 5 DBAs, each would be responsible for like 20 servers. You don't want to have alerting going on for all the servers and everybody getting the alerts. So here is how you can give the threshold based on tag names. So the script is very simple: maniac.connections.tagname.index of, and put the tag. For example, for this demo environment, I have a tag called replica, so I could actually give it there, and this should be greater than or equal to 0. It should pass a value like return 10. So yeah, so threshold value, that's what you put here for replicas, for instance, is 10, and you return the value 80. So it's very simple to customize it. I'm just showing it for one particular monitor, but you can do it for all the monitors which are available in Maniac, which are like 600 plus. But to get started, you really need to have alerting going on before something goes terribly wrong, and you need to receive critical alerts. And you can do very simple. You can just save it, but I don't want to get alerts at this time, and it's very simple to give the email addresses. Just put the email of the recipients. Like it's very simple, and you will receive the alerts. It's that simple. So Maniac supports both SNMP and SMTP. So you would be able to get alerts on your email, and later figure out that, okay, what was going wrong and all those things. There are a set of other options here as well, which is self-explanatory. The first step is to understand how to accomplish this, and after that everything is very easy. You just have to click buttons and it all makes sense. So now, which monitor should you enable alerting for? That should be the first question, where to go to have that set of alerting going on, which saves your day. So alerts should be set up for the monitors which are mission critical and cause a threat to the functionality of the server or the data stored in the MySQL. So for example, MySQL server availability counter, if it is available, it's fine, but if it's not available, it's a problem. And it's very helpful for you to reduce the downtime for your server, as you will be alerted the moment Maniac loses connection with the server, which could be a network issue or because of the MySQL server stopping just abruptly. The second monitor that you should be looking at is the connection usage, for which you should definitely have the alert enabled for, because the number of open connections are shown here as percentage of max allowed connections. So you can make sense of this information. If it is like going a bit above, you should definitely take some action. And also what we were looking at before as percentage of refused connections. If it's like going way above your threshold value, it could be an indication that someone is trying to hack your server, which you do not want to deal with when you're learning to monitor MySQL. So, definitely have this alert enabled. And what Eric was trying to show you before, the deadlock monitoring. So, you can get alerts for this. So once you get a a deadlock, you would see the information like this here. Like I have like 2 deadlocks here, and you see the values for this right here. You would see that, okay, which queries are actually having a deadlock going on, and you can take immediate action. And the monitor to check the state of your slave servers. For example, if the server is lagging behind, like a slave is like seconds behind master, you can have alerts going on for that if you have replication in place, because once you would grow, you will definitely have a replication topology. So this will be very helpful in that area. So yeah, these are the few monitors that require immediate attention if they cross the set critical threshold. So I just want to go a bit deeper into this seconds behind master monitor. So this will raise an alert in case the slave server starts lagging behind the master for more than the set threshold. This monitor gives the read-write sync between the master and the slave, and the high value indicates that the slave is not able to cope up with the master and is particularly lagging behind. So we fetch this value using the query show slave status. So this monitor is alertable by default and is shipped with the warning and critical threshold values as 450 and 600 seconds respectively. So all the monitors in Moniog are open to users and can be customized very easily. Just you have to go to monitors page, select a monitor, edit it, and just give the values that you want using a simple JavaScript, and it's very, very powerful. Now quickly moving on to monitoring the MySQL log files on a remote machine. Now you would be wondering, why it is so important. So MySQL provides the error and query logs to enable you to help in diagnosing the issue faced by the server and also analyze the queries that are executed. The monitoring of these logs is important, as warning and error logs could be critical for the functioning of the server, which you would realize once you start spending more time with MySQL. And if a non-authorized person is trying to access the MySQL, the IP and the username are logged into the error log, which is essential to know during a phishing attack. So it is very important. And what happens if this functionality is not available, if you're not able to access these files? So if the monitoring of the log is not available, then it is a very, very tedious task, as you have to access the log file and then go through it, which is not easy to understand without going through the documentation of the entire log. So how to make your life easy? What are the steps to monitor MySQL log files on a remote machine using Moniog? So in order for Moniog to access the logs on a remote machine, it requires an SSH connection and read permission on the file. If it is an RDS server, the logs are fetched using REST API and requires the secret and access keys for IAM user for AWS. And the MySQL error log and MySQL query log options can be enabled under the advanced tab for server registration, which is here, like in advanced option. These are the same options you will get when you're trying to register a server. You can just go to the MySQL query log. So now I've got it enabled, but you can enable it. And importantly, if it is something that you have to fetch from a local machine, put the local path. If it's remote, it should be via SFTP, and put the logging in type where you want to log in, file or table, and you just give the path for that file, and you just test it. It's successful, it's valid, and have a different set of options that you should definitely put there, and just always test, like if it's working fine, it's everything is great, and just save it. And this is how you're going to get all of the MySQL log files from a remote machine. And if you were using RDS, I have got one here for demo purposes, you can go to edit server, you can go under MySQL query log, and it's using the REST APIs for RDS or Aurora. And by the way, Monarch is the only tool which does file-based log monitoring for RDS or Aurora, and it makes it as easy as it is to fetch the log from a local path or a remote machine. So you should definitely look at those areas when you are having different flavors of MySQL monitored, like on-prem or standard or cloud-hosted MySQL. Now it all comes back to how Monyog is different from a particular competition called MEM, because you would have different set of options to figure out which would be the right fit according to your use case. If you're just starting with MySQL, how do you make sure that you do not spend a lot of money and have a lot of learning at the same time? Is going open source the right way? Because you would have a different set of tools which require you to learn a lot of stuff without having a good interface like tools like Monyog or MEM provide. But once you figure out that, okay, you need a GUI tool to save a lot of time and do a lot of stuff to make sure that you succeed in your role, you should definitely compare the features of both Monyog and MEM. I would later come to the pricing, because that's what I guess you would be looking at to start with, to see if it really makes sense to do a comparison. But yeah, let's start with the features. So as Eric demonstrated, Monyog has different query analysis going on. I mean, MEM would of course give you that because it's a MySQL monitoring tool, and you should of course be able to do query analysis. But when it comes to RDS file-based log monitoring, like I was showing you just a couple of minutes ago, like how we fetch the information using the APIs from RDS, MEM doesn't do that, because you could not basically install the piece of software for monitoring RDS, because MEM doesn't provide, I mean, it provides an agentless version as well, but they always suggest you to do the agent-based MEM. And as RDS doesn't allow you to install any agent on their host, you could not have a monitoring tool going on there. So Monyog is basically agentless. You could have it monitor RDS or cloud-hosted MySQL, do RDS file-based log monitoring. Just a small note that RDS OS monitoring is in beta, and it will be released in 1 week. So with that, we will cover the entire length and breadth of RDS monitoring with Monyog, which MEM is, of course, it doesn't even exist in that space. Of course, Monyog does real-time monitoring, which you have been seeing, which Eric was showing you, completely absent in MEM. If you want to do a specific high-fidelity real-time session, you get it with Monyog. Alerting, what I have been demonstrating you, MEM has also got good alerting. I would give MEM good points on that. And replication monitoring, both the tools have it. Replication is, of course, required to be monitored by all the monitoring tools for MySQL, and it's there. Tracking the configuration changes is something which is pretty unique to Monyog, regardless of what the competition is, because we let you track the configuration changes, because if you had some people working with you and they left, they did some changes in the configuration of MySQL, the reason to degrading performance of your MySQL could lay with the tracking, with the changes in the configuration. So you want to make sure that all the servers are configured properly and they're consistent in their configuration. So it's a pretty handy feature. A little bit note on the agentless side of the comparison, because what I was trying to tell you is Monyog is agentless, wherein it collects and monitors data without having to install a monitoring agent on each of the hosts that you monitor. So no additional resources or permissions are needed, which saves huge amount of time, especially in cases of large deployments. If you're not there, you might get there at some point, but you should definitely take a look at it. Why MEM particularly doesn't recommend agentless monitoring, because MEM cannot get OS metrics and network data without agents. So they need agents to be used extensively and be valuable to whatever features they provide. And they cannot do the MySQL logs monitoring, like slow query logs, general query logs, or error logs without agents. So yeah, so I know it has been a bit comprehensive, but I think this will give you a good indication to get started with MySQL monitoring, know what your options are right there, how to make your life easy. And this brings me to the last couple of slides. What are the benefits that you get with it? Of course, it's a huge time saver. Allows you to have a faster issue resolution time, avoids critical gap across your servers, comes with 600 plus monitors and advisors right off the box, all customizable, on-premise, stay compliant, and scale it as you go. You don't have to worry about the licensing, because talking about the pricing of MEM and Monyog, MEM comes bundled with MySQL Enterprise Edition, which starts with like $5,000, which gives you a myriad of things which you do not need while you are just looking for a monitoring tool. Whereas Monyog starts with like $299 or $139 for upper edition and the lowest edition respectively, which is a perpetual license, one-time payment, ROI in 1 month. That's what we have seen on an average. MEM is subscription based. The cost, as I said, is like 4 to 5K per socket per year, recurring cost. Yeah, so now you know why Monyog has been used by 35,000 customers. And why Monyog is particularly a need to have? Because proactive monitoring, you get it right off the box. You just have to edit the alerts accordingly. Mission critical applications works fine. Customers do not notice that your MySQL servers are having a performance issue. You get to keep your job, and no deep database expertise needed, because this is crucial. You don't want to spend time or waste time learning a new stuff when you can just use the existing wheel. Do not reinvent it, and makes it super easy to monitor MySQL. So thank you for sticking for this long. Quickly, you can try it out, Monyog on monyog.com. There is a documentation available as part of onboarding. Sales is always on standby to give you support and sales. So keep tuned with the upcoming 2 webinars where we will demonstrate more about real-time and RDS file-based log monitoring and how Monyog is unique to monitor MySQL hosted on the cloud, and how you can achieve faster issue resolution time and save half of the time that you're currently spending while monitoring MySQL. You can check out the links on blog where you can register. And thank you very much for your time. And now we will quickly move on to the Q&A to answer the questions that we would have probably received. Okay, so the first interesting question that I see is, how can I disable a particular monitor, example CPU alert, for a particular server and not for all my servers? Okay, that's a great question. You cannot disable a monitor for a particular server. Once disabled, it will be disabled for all the servers. However, you can make use of these separate server selectors, which we introduced in one of our recent releases, which is like last release, like 8.0.4. Mainly for this use case, we have released that. And many of our customers wanted to monitor a different set of servers for different features in Monyog, which you can achieve now, as you can select a server to monitor on the basis of the feature that you are using. Let me give you an example. In your case, you can select only those servers in the monitor space for which you want to see the CPU usage value for, so you can accomplish with that. And okay, moving on to the next question. We are running a bit short on time. I will try to be quick. How relevant is my.conf in optimizing database performance? Okay, so that comes with a default value for the variables, and the place where you can modify the value for your MySQL variables, depending on your MySQL environment. permanently, you can make use of commands like set global status variables to set it at session level as well. So it is very important to set a proper value for the variables, as the value set here largely defines the performance of your server. I'd like to give you more information via email, so I'll follow up on that. Third question, the alert via email and on Monyog. Okay, so it's a bit broken down question, but I think I get what you mean. So yes, you can get the notification alerts either via email alerts or SNMP trap. You just need to give the email ID or the SNMP trap receiver host name value for start receiving the alerts. It's very simple. Okay, so in the interest of the time, that brings us to the end of this presentation. The recording
if I may just answer the question from Odu.
Oh yeah, of course.
The next webinar series, the number 2, I will add a bonus in that presentation, that webinar, and I will bring more complex queries, so I can show the people how to optimize, or how we can identify or see through Monyog those kind of complex queries. If you have more questions, you can always send me email at db@ericvanier.com. It would be a pleasure to answer your questions as well. Thank you, Shreen.
All right, fantastic. So thank you for your time, Eric, and everybody. You've been awesome for sticking with us for so long. We look forward to seeing you again. You have a great rest of the week. Bye now.